Okay, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces, but for those that don't know me, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you all today about building resilience. And this, I feel like, is a very important time to talk about something like this, considering how chaotic our current world is. Um, in our society, we kind of are always on the go. We're always hearing about the latest current event, the latest tragedy, and it can be very overwhelming. But there are amazing tools in place that we can build over time so that we can be stronger people and live more joyful lives. So let's get started. Building resilience during chaos. And I want this to be a very interactive webinar. Please feel free to send any thoughts or questions in the chat or unmute yourselves. There'll be different points in the presentation where I'll ask some reflective questions. And so your participation is greatly appreciated so that we can get the most out of this. So I'll be talking about the importance of resilience. What is it? We hear that word often, but maybe we don't really know the definition. I'll also talk about the consequences of having low resilience, some tools to build resiliency, outcomes of high resilience. We're going to do a quick little resilience quiz, which I found to be really insightful. And then we'll have question and answers and discussion. So I want to hear from all of you. What do you think when you hear the word resilience? Maybe in one word or a couple. What does it mean to you, or what do you first think of when you hear that word?
Bouncing back.
Bouncing back? Yes, definitely. I see something in the chat. Strong. Yes. Thank you, Cheryl. Strength. Definitely. Bulletproof, conquer, coping. These are all great ways to describe resilience. And that's exactly what resilience is. Oh, is this? Okay, great. So what is resilience? Like many of you mentioned, it's bouncing back in simple terms. A more scripted definition would be to successfully adapt to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through the mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility to these external or internal demands. So if you think about maybe a pendulum swinging, one ball hits the other, it makes it move or, leave its original neutral state, and then it goes back to its state. And so the word resilience comes from physics, actually. It's a term that means the ability of metals or other objects to absorb an energy, such as being hit or any type of force, and then going back to its normal state after the energy has been unloaded. And so in physics, resilience can be calculated through formulas. And I want to keep that in mind because we're not just science experience, and we're not, we have emotions, and some of our behavior cannot be calculated just like in science or mathematics, but there are things that we can do so that we can have better outcomes with our resilience. And so resilience is important because we need it in every facet of our life. We need it to overcome hardships, despite what's happening in our life. Like sometimes we can think like, oh yeah, this is something that is simple to bounce back from. Maybe like you just tripped, right? Maybe you just didn't fall, you just tripped. That's something you can easily bounce back. Thank God I didn't fall, I didn't hurt myself, I didn't embarrass myself. But maybe you did have a fall, for example, like getting back to, health, or just being going about your day and not feeling embarrassed or something like that can sometimes be a hardship for someone. And of course, there's many different struggles in life that we can think of that are much more serious than just falling or tripping. But when we have resilience, we're able to overcome these hardships and move forward. Similarly, it makes adversity more bearable. So maybe, a struggle in your life or a challenge, you would think, oh, maybe like this is very challenging. Like, how can I get past this? But when you actually have a strong sense of resilience, it makes it more bearable. You feel like you're better equipped, you're stronger. Someone said bulletproof. That's a great way of maybe describing your resilience. Like, it doesn't matter what comes at you, what hits you, you're still able to continue. And with that, it increases success in every single way. It doesn't matter if you're trying to be successful in your schoolwork, in your day-to-day job, with your friends and family, with your creative endeavors. You are more likely to be successful when you have tools in place to make you stronger and keep your happiness in place when things are out of line. Like many things that affect our mental and physical health, resilience is a great way to make sure that you are keeping your brain and your body and your spirit at peace and happy. A lot of mental illnesses and physical illnesses are linked. And so, it's not a surprise that if you're having a really stressful time at work, maybe you'll come down with a cold, or similarly, like in these very cold times, it gets dark really early. It just affects our bodies and brains. And so resilience does prevent mental and physical illnesses as well. And it can continuously strengthen us. So it really doesn't matter what stage in life you're at. If you're continuously trying to build your resilience through different tools that we'll talk about, you'll always have a great sense of strength. And of course, depending like what stage you are in your life, you'll need maybe more strength in one area of your life as opposed to like the other. And so resilience definitely continues to strengthen us no matter where we are in life. Going back to the way that there's an ability to calculate resilience through physics, the same thing can be done in just the productivity field or like work. And so I thought this was really interesting that this place called, or this institute called the Resilience Institute, actually has these ways of making trainings or business solutions for businesses to increase their resilience for their employees. And when we think about it, maybe on the surface, it can be really nice, right? That a company or an organization wants their employees to be resilient. But then as I started thinking about it a little further, it's because maybe they just want us to continue to be productive in ways that maybe just better suit their profit and their missions. For example, Gallup's State of the Global Workplace in 2023, they found that employees who aren't engaged in the workplace, it costs them $1.8 trillion in lost productivity, meaning that the way that our resilience is, if it's strong, it's low, it's going to affect productivity. And we can see that in our personal lives as well. And so businesses know the need of having resilient humans on their teams to increase productivity, to increase profit. And so if you can think about it, if these businesses are trying to increase resilience, making sure that their employees are resilient, you can see how important it is to have a strong mind, to continue to build your resilience. And so I thought that was very fascinating, this like headline, maximizing return on investment through resilience training, a business imperative. But it's not just a business imperative, right? I want to really emphasize humanizing resilience. That's really what stays with us besides the workplace. When we go home, when, we don't have much to do, maybe to keep us busy as far as work or projects. It's just us, our brains, our friends, our family, how we can continue to show up for ourselves and for them. That's definitely something that we want to keep in mind. And so I love this headline, right? Why developing resilience is maybe the most important thing you can do for your well-being right now. And it is true, because resiliency works, as we have seen, because it doesn't matter what you're going through, as long as you have a strong sense of resilience, you're able to push forward and maybe not get as affected by this, challenge or struggle than you thought. Because here it says 50 to 60% of Americans are exposed to trauma in different forms, but only 5 to 10% actually developed PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And so that means that we actually are much stronger than we think. And we have to give ourselves credit for that, of course, because resilience does provide better overall well-being. And it is better than having a lower resilience and having better life satisfaction. So sometimes we can think that we're more satisfied with life overall, but having a lower resilience isn't really going to be the most helpful. And another point is that resilience is built over time and it's flexible. So I love to think about maybe when you're in school, for example, in university, you have to really pay attention to like studying and getting this, a paper done or doing some homework done. And that might be like where you want to focus your energy on at the moment. And then as we leave university or school, that kind of shift into focusing on like our jobs and giving that focus to our jobs. And so resilience is something that can be built over time and it's flexible. So it doesn't really matter where you are in your life. You're still able to build it, unlearn certain things that weren't helping you in the past and learn some things that are going to help you in the future. And it's okay that you're maybe resilient in one area and struggle maybe in a different area. That's fine, of course. I want to talk a little bit about times where our resilience is tested. We can probably think of some times, right, of failure, not getting a job, not passing an exam, not meeting expectations, lack of success. That's one thing. Also, it could be times of conflict, whether that's internal with yourself or external with others. It could be harassment, discrimination, family issues, abuse, problems with the law, war, genocide. And I wanted to talk, make it a point right now that with the current issues going on in our world right now, these are times where a lot of people are losing trust in systems. They're not having a lot of faith in themselves to be able to get through their everyday lives. Maybe they feel like they don't see a point, right? They're feeling kind of hopeless. So our resilience is definitely tested in times like that. And then, of course, big changes like a separation or divorce, something as like growing up, which I think is something that is not really talked about often. Like when you're growing up and going through different phases of your life, from childhood to your teenage years, then early adulthood, how that can really shift your thinking and really test you. And so these are all different times where our resilience is tested and how we can really, use our resilience to make sure that during these difficult periods, we're taking care of ourselves and moving forward. So the consequences of low resilience are very similar to consequences of other, detrimental mental health or health factors. Consequence of low resilience can be depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, isolation, the list goes on. And all of these things are very much linked. For example, if you don't have a high resilience, you may feel a little anxious on your productivity in the workplace or maybe in your personal life. You don't get a lot of things done. And maybe you feel like you want to isolate. If you're not feeling so good about yourself, you don't have high self-esteem or good sense of self-esteem, it does affect other areas of your life. So I just want to make a point that a lot of these are interlinked. And it's, very normal to experience periods of these types of behaviors and feelings. And there's always something you can do every single day to build that up and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So I mentioned a little bit about this previously, but these are just some things that I wanted to point out that are affecting our lives as a collective. For example, the genocide taking place in Palestine, something as big as climate change as well, and economic challenges. These are things that it doesn't matter where you're from, where you come from, how much money you have, how much education, they are affecting us, and it is normal to feel that weight of the world on you. Some people feel like they don't really know how to navigate all of this because it's so heavy, and oftentimes we don't have a lot of control in that, right? Something like a genocide taking place where big world leaders are involved in that, we feel like, what can I do to help this? Climate change, we've been seeing for decades of people advocating for more sustainable solutions. And of course, it still comes down to people in power that have a lot more effects on these changes than we do. And again, with economic challenges, these are things that are really big. They can be very heavy. And every single day, people are navigating through these issues, whether we talk about it or not. They are affecting us. So I want to do another little reflection question. We talked about some things, the importance of resilience, and why it's really important in our everyday lives. And so I want to hear from you guys on what you think you do in your life currently that makes you feel resilient, makes you feel strong, bulletproof, makes you feel like you can push forward. So Cheryl says, hanging out with friends and family. Yes, I love that. Journal and give gratitude. Yes, definitely. Those are things that I do in my everyday life too that make me feel really strong. And we're going to talk more about this in the next couple of slides too. Thank you for sharing. So I'll go over these next couple of points briefly. But there are definitely things that we can do to build our resiliency, like I mentioned. And I would say, of course, in childhood, when we're developing, these are the best times to build this up. But still, like I also mentioned previously, you can build it up over time. It's flexible. There's always chances to make sure that you're implementing these tools in your life. The first thing I mentioned is reflection, taking 15 minutes out of your day to write how you're feeling. This is really helpful because you're kind of unloading your mind and your brain. A lot of times we have these thoughts, these heavy feelings, and they're just in our heads. Maybe we feel like we can't talk to anyone about it, but if you just don't want to talk to anyone about it, you can just write it down for yourself. Have a piece of paper, a journal, where you reflect on how you're feeling. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Sometimes when I think about journaling, I want to have like the best grammar and make sure my handwriting is pretty, as if anyone is going to read my journal. But of course, this is for you. No one's going to look over it. You don't have to hand it in. There's no pressure. So you can relax that this is just something that you're doing for yourself. It's intimate in that way with yourself, and it can just get you to feel a little bit more relaxed. Next, I want to talk about connection. I think this is probably one of the biggest tools to build resiliency, when you feel like you can talk to someone in your everyday life that can listen to you and give you some advice if that's what you need at the time. This can be a friend that you trust, a family member, a mentor, a counselor. They can give you a different perspective of your situation than maybe you thought about before. And it's important in times of struggle to have, people that you trust that you can turn to. You feel less alone. You can also relate to people as well. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm the only one that's dealing with this. No one knows how I'm feeling, but you'll be surprised when you just maybe get out of your comfort zone and speak to someone. They might be feeling the same way that you do, and they can have some tips to help you go through that same situation. Next, I want to talk about positive action. So this can be maybe relating to something as, a protest, and, feeling like your voice actually matters. And so, like I mentioned, when there's really big challenges in our world that we feel like we don't have control over, whether that's climate change, war, genocide, there are things you can do that can make you feel like you have some type of say, like boycotting, for example, or writing to representatives. And then besides just, big challenges like that, this can just be like communicating your needs to someone, whether that's like getting help with an assignment, needing help to move if you're like moving or something. Communicating your needs for support is really, really big. And sometimes we really undermine that. The request of saying like, hey, I need help, for some of us that can feel like really daunting. Like it may make you feel like inadequate, that you can't handle things on your own. But I just want to remind you, it's okay to ask for help. And it's really brave of you to ask for help. It shows that, you're being vulnerable, that that you can't do things all on your own. And so communicating needs is really important. And also creating a game plan for your day is also a way of taking positive action in your life. I find this mostly helpful like in the workplace, and I want to, bring this to my personal life as well. Like we have to-do lists. Maybe we have just like a productivity software that we use to be productive and making sure that all of our tasks are in play. But you deserve that in your own personal everyday life as well. Just something that keeps you on track, keeps you motivated, and make sure that you're getting everything done. So here are some more tools of resilience that maybe we tend to forget about. Compassion and understanding. Compassion goes a long way, and I really do believe in the power of extending that love and support for yourself. And so the definition of compassion is, being sympathetic to someone's challenges or struggles, but it doesn't end there. It's not just feeling sympathy and feeling sorry for someone. It's actually having a desire to alleviate their suffering and doing something about it, helping them with that. To be able to have compassion, you need to understand where someone's coming from, or try to understand. And this, we can maybe think about it most with other people, right? You may have compassion for your friends and your family, but I want you all to remember to extend that to yourselves as well. Having self-compassion, giving yourself that love, that care, that attention is really helpful to build resiliency. Of course, we all hear about being optimistic and having a good attitude. I want to mention that I know it's not possible all the time, but there are definitely, it's always accessible to us to find moments of gratitude and positivity. When I think about being grateful, I think that it doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you're still able to think, hey, luckily I still have my health. Luckily I still have the nice warmth in my house to keep me warm from the cold during the winter. And it can be anything. It's something that's really helpful in my personal life, because I always feel that I'm just lucky, right? When you feel like you are blessed in that way, or you're very grateful to have access to small things, big things, doesn't matter. It does make you feel more happy, positive. And it is true that more hopeful people do live longer. They are happier and healthier in their everyday lives. And so let's not forget the power of optimism and gratitude. And of course, our coping strategies, having a system in place to take care of your physical needs, mental needs, spiritual needs are so important. You probably have heard of the 8 dimensions of wellness are, key to making sure that all aspects of our life are taken care of. That's definitely something that we'll go into more in the next webinar, but coping strategies are really important. And here are the outcomes of having high resilience. So we talked about the low outcomes, what that can happen if you have low resilience, but having high resilience has amazing benefits. So people that have high resilience tend to be better at managing their stress, especially under pressure. There's a greater chance that you would be protected from mental and physical illnesses. And of course, having high resilience doesn't mean that you'll never have problems. It doesn't mean that you'll ignore your problems. You're just able to move past them in a more healthier way. So this could mean that, we talk about bouncing back. So making sure that you're staying focused, right? If we have something really challenging happening in our personal lives, understanding that it does have an effect maybe in your work life or in your relationships with other people, but understanding that you do have some self-control in your behaviors and your mood, and you do have a big role to play in how much you enjoy your life and what you get out of these lessons in your life. Having high resilience also increases productivity, like we mentioned. It makes you perform better. And I want to also just emphasize that it is important to make sure that we're staying productive in the workplace, but you really do come first. And so, you're not able to pour out of an empty cup. And so remember that this is just for you as well, to make sure that you are staying healthy and happy. Because when you have high resilience, you do have a greater life satisfaction overall. You just feel like all these things that we mentioned in the chat. We feel strong, we feel better equipped to handle life's challenges, and that can really go a long way. So at this point, if you have the ability to, there is this quiz that I would like all of us to take. You can scan the QR code and it'll take you to this website where you can take an assessment for your resilience. So using your phone camera, you can scan the QR code, and it is a very quick quiz. It'll maybe take like 2 or 3 minutes, and we can discuss maybe the results or how you feel about your results afterward. And they're very simple questions, and it'll give you just kind of like where you stand on the resiliency scale. And I think this is important because we often, like I mentioned, don't really feel like we have high resilience, or we kind of like underestimate ourselves, but we actually are much stronger than we think. So I'll give you guys a quick few minutes to do that, and we can share our results in a bit. I'll give you like another minute or so, and then we can share if anyone feels called to do so. Awesome. So what did you guys think? Were you guys surprised? Did you feel like you are more resilient than you thought you were?
I had put down that I was moderately resilient, and I got highly resilient. So I'm kind of like surprised.
Awesome. Go you. Winnie says got a 70, moderate. Okay, cool. And I really like this quiz because it tells you, it kind of like teaches you along the way. And when I was first taking this quiz, I just instinctively wanted to skip past so I can get to the next question. And that kind of shows you like sometimes where we have, great advice in front of us and we just kind of want to move past it and get to the next thing. And so I did this quiz again and sat through it with a little bit more time and read through it a little bit more. And so I do encourage you all to do that when you have more time. And then at the end, like you saw, it does have some, a point or two of some things that you can do to build your resilience more based off of the results and the answers that you put. I do appreciate all of you for participating, and share this with like anyone that you feel like can benefit from it. I think it's really helpful. So that's really all that I have for today. I just want to thank you all for being here and for listening. Um, Sometimes talking about like a heavy thing about resiliency or current events or our struggles can be a lot. So I encourage you all to take a couple of deep breaths, and take care of yourselves for the rest of the day, and have a great rest of your week. In addition, we do have a QR code, but I can also, for a survey to leave feedback, that I'll put in the next slide. But if anyone has any questions or anything to share, please do so at this time. We do have some time left to chat if anyone would like to.
I shared the link to the form as well in the chat. So if anyone wants to fill that out to give Natalie some feedback, that would be awesome. But great job, Natalie. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Is there anything that you found, just to ask a question, is there anything that you found when taking the quiz that really surprised you, of what they found to be helpful in building resiliency?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, there was one point that said to take action more. And so to like talk to other people, ask for support in times where I'm, feeling overwhelmed or like I need more support. And, I talked about that in the presentation. Sometimes we let things kind of pile on top of each other and we don't really tend to our needs like we'd like to. And we think maybe, when it's happening, oh, like if I would have just asked for support last week, a month ago, like I would be in a better place right now or in a better situation. So I think, that was something that really surprised me. And I was like, yeah, of course, like support. That's something that we hear about often, communication, but we seldom do it. So yeah, that was definitely something that shocked me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Safa says, I think we are more resilient than we know. Yeah, that's definitely true. That statistic shocked me in the beginning where, a large percentage of us go through very challenging situations, but few of us actually, have long-term, detrimental effects of those challenges. I think in a world where self-care and self-help books are like the most, like, I don't know, one of the most profitable forms of media, whether it's books, vlogs, videos, documentaries, how we can continue to be better. We forget that we're whole people as is. Of course, there's always things that we can work on, but that can also make you feel like you're always chasing to be better at something. I always have something else to work on for myself. And so I really implore you all to just be grateful for the things that you have right now that are amazing. Whether you're a great listener, you have incredible grit and perseverance. Sometimes it's okay to just take a pause and say, no, I'm not ready for my next self-help book. I don't need it right now. Let me just read something else. You do deserve that too. Thank you, Cheryl, for your nice words. She says, I learned a lot about resilience and myself through the quiz. That's awesome. Thank you all for participating.
Natalie, I have a question for you. For resilience, where do you use it the most in your life, do you think?
It's so important in all aspects of my life, but I think the most important place that I can use resilience is, just in my everyday personal life, for myself, because like a lot of you are on this webinar call, you're in the industry of, social work and helping people. even, as a prevention consultant, talking about very sensitive topics, being an expert in these topics can make me feel a little bit overwhelmed sometimes, to give the right information, making sure that the research is accurate. And so, just go back to your question, I have to take care of myself before I'm able to teach anyone else, before I'm able to help anyone else in my life. Again, you can't pour from an empty cup, and so definitely in my personal life, I feel like it's the most useful because it does affect all other aspects of my life.